and welcome back to Story Stash. I'm your host Duncan, and these are some of my stories I've written. Today I'm reading from my book Ghost Whisperer, and this is chapter 27. So let's get started. Chapter 27. Once Ed returned to his workplace, he exited his car and entered the building. Fortunately, he'd taken less than 2 hours. He hurried to his cubicle and got busy with the software bug fixes. Later, his phone rang. Hello? Ed, you said you'd call me, said Ellen. Sorry, something serious came up. Can I visit you tonight and explain? Serious? Of course. I'll see you after you get off work. He ended the call and resumed his work. He'd have to explain about the leprechaun to Ellen. Ed resumed his work. He had no time to waste. Ellen would expect him this evening, so he couldn't work late as he'd planned. Ed prepared a fresh release candidate near the end of the day, including his fixes. He ran it through the automated testing until it passed cleanly. Ed closed his computer and walked out to his car. He drove to Ellen's mansion. Ellen met Ed at the front entrance when he arrived. Good evening, Ellen. I'm sorry I didn't call earlier today. I promise when I explain you'll understand why. Ellen responded by kissing him on the lips. She held on for at least a minute. When they parted, Ed was feeling light-headed. He didn't anticipate that to happen. Ellen took his hand and led him inside. They walked without talking until reaching the family room. Sit, she said, and she gestured at the sofa. Ed sat. Coffee? She asked. Yes, please. Ellen poured 2 coffees and sat beside him. Ed took a sip. It was the usual level of perfection. After he put down his cup, Ellen took both of his hands in hers. Okay, explain. Well, yesterday my co-worker Blake and I went to an Irish pub at lunchtime. I encountered a leprechaun there. A real live leprechaun? Yes, only I saw him. With me so far? Makes sense, as you can see spirits. Continue, she said. This morning he appeared in my apartment. I don't know how he found out where I live. He insisted I give him some gold. He gave me 24 hours to get the gold, warning of a curse if I failed. Wow. So I skipped work and bought some gold coins at a bullion dealer. That's why I didn't call you this morning. Show me the coins. Ed took the small pouch from his pocket and handed it to Ellen. I bought Irish coins. Since he's a leprechaun, I thought they'd be more appealing to him, said Ed. Ellen looked at the coins and measured their weight in her hand. Finally, she handed them back to Ed. And you'll give them all to the leprechaun? Would you rather I suffer his curse? I guess not. I'm surprised. This is a lot of money. I know. I had to dig into my emergency savings. If you'd told me, I could have helped you. I agree, but this was my problem. We're a team now. You can lean on me. In fact, I insist. Ellen kissed him again. What was that for? Any other man, I'd think they were avoiding me, or worse. Thank you for explaining to me. Yesterday was a tragedy finding the body of that student, and the police interrogation was draining. Then the leprechaun. I'm struggling to keep up. I understand, Ed. There's no need to face this alone. Ellen held Ed in her arms. Officer Ure was on patrol when he got a call. He pulled over to answer it. Hello, officer. My name is Catherine Clark. We spoke the other day when you vouched for Ed Tanner. Yes, I remember that. How are you this evening? I'm very good, thank you. Ed warned me about a fake psychic. He saved me a lot of money. I'm glad he could help you. He's an amazing guy. I was hoping to meet him in person to thank him, but he forgot to give me his contact info. I'm sorry, I can't give out his information on the phone, but I have an idea. Are you available tomorrow evening? I can be. What's the plan? Well, Ed and I have an appointment at a social gathering. I could bring you along as my guest. That would be perfect. Let me give you my info. She gave him her address, and he wrote it down in his notepad. I'll pick you up on my way to meet Ed. Be ready around 5 p.m. tomorrow. Will do, thanks. Officer Ure ended the call and resumed his patrol. Next morning, Ed awoke early in his apartment. He showered, dressed, and got his usual coffee. Ed sat on the sofa and sipped his coffee. He patted his pocket where he kept the gold coins. He didn't have long to wait. The leprechaun appeared in the same chair as yesterday. "'Tis another fine morning, is it not?" said the leprechaun. "Good morning, sir." "Indeed. Did you find me some gold?" "I did." Ed took the small pouch from his pocket and handed it to the leprechaun. The leprechaun examined the coins with a keen interest. "Out of respect for you, I chose Irish coins. I hope that was all right," asked Ed. The leprechaun glanced up from the coins and met Ed's gaze. "Fair play. I accept ye token of respect. You've done well." The leprechaun put the small pouch into his waistcoat pocket. "So next we come to the trade. Take off your shoes." Ed immediately removed his shoes. The leprechaun handed him another pair of bright green shoes with large yellow buckles on. "Well, lad, put 'em on." Ed looked at the leprechaun with trepidation. He put his feet into the shoes and adjusted the buckles. At once they adjusted to fit the size of his feet. "They're fit for your feet." "Do they have to be bright green?" asked Ed. "Nay, lad, you just consider how you want them to look. They'll change for ye." Ed imagined how his old shoes looked. Soon the shoes changed their appearance. They looked exactly the same as his old shoes, only they felt more comfortable. "That's amazing. There be more. When you're wearing the shoes, you'll have the luck of the Irish." "Thank you, sir. That's amazing." "And that concludes our trade. I'll take my leave of ye, until we next meet." The leprechaun disappeared. Ed looked down at his feet. The shoes looked completely normal. They felt more comfortable than his other shoes, so he kept them on. Soon Ed left for work. Ed drove to work and arrived in record time. He hit all the green lights on his way. Ed got his choice of parking spot since he arrived a little earlier than usual. After parking, Ed exited his car and entered the workplace. He made it early to his cubicle and started up his computer. Ed blazed through several software bug fixes, completely making up for the time he took off work to buy gold yesterday. Soon, Blake arrived. "Hello, Ed. You got in early this morning." "Yes, just catching up on work I missed yesterday. How are you today?" "I'm good, thanks." Ed got into a tricky bug. He was in his happy place. Later, his phone rang. "Ed, it's Officer Ure." "Hello, how can I help you, officer?" "Are you and Ellen free this evening? The Snoqualmie are having a gathering, and you're invited." "Sure, I can pick up Ellen and meet you at the Snoqualmie reservation. She'll bring her security detail with her like last time." "Okay, I'll see you there." "Sounds good. I'll call Ellen to let her know." "Goodbye." The call ended. Ed called Ellen. "Hello, Ed." "Ellen, we're invited to a gathering at the Snoqualmie reservation. Are you okay to go?" asked Ed. "Sure. I expect it will be like the Duwamish gathering. What time?" "I can pick you up from your place around 5. The drive to the Snoqualmie reservation is longer." "I'll be ready." "Awesome. Until then." Ed ended the call. After work, Ed drove directly to Ellen's mansion. She was waiting for him at the main entrance, with her security detail and their SUV at the ready. Ellen didn't wait for him to step out of his car. She got into the front passenger seat, then she leaned over and kissed him. "I like how punctual you are," she said. "Same here. With kisses like that, I'll be punctual more often. We've got a long drive ahead." They left her mansion and headed east on I-90. Fortunately, traffic was light, and he hit an unusual number of green lights along the way. While they drove, Ed filled her in on the encounter with the leprechaun. "So you gave him thousands of dollars worth of gold, and he gave you a pair of shoes that look no different from your old ones?" "Yes, these are magic shoes. They give me the luck of the Irish," he told me. He also left me alone. I didn't want an angry leprechaun on my case. I have enough to worry about already. "Quite. You seem to have come out okay. No curses or anything." "Yes, although he said, 'Until we next meet.' I suspect this isn't the last I'll see of him. At least we parted on good terms. If you have to give him more gold, please talk to me about it. We're a team, and I want us to handle this together." "Of course, dear." "This is rather like the genie. There could be similar encounters, and I want us to face them together." "I've got it. We're a team." "Good." When Ed arrived at the Snoqualmie reservation, it was busier than his last visit. People were arriving for their gathering. Ed parked his car next to an empty spot, and the SUV pulled in beside his car. The two security guards stepped out to survey the area. Lots of people were walking towards the main building. "I know where we're going," said Ed. Ellen spoke to her detail before Ed and Ellen walked, holding hands, towards the main building. Several people in the crowd stared at them. They pointed at him and talked between themselves, but Ed couldn't hear what they said. "Ed, I know you said we're invited, but I feel a little uncomfortable." "Once we're inside, I'm sure we'll be okay," he said to her. At the entrance, a familiar face approached them, an elderly man they met before. Ed couldn't remember his name, though. "Ed, Ellen, welcome. I'm glad you got the invite," he said. "Officer Urey called me today." "Good. Let me introduce you to the others." They followed him inside, where he introduced them to several people. There were lots of smiles and handshakes. "It appears they've all heard of your rescue," said Ellen. "Apparently." Then a couple with a young girl they recognized approached Ed. It was the lost girl and her parents. "Hello again," said Ed. The little girl said nothing, but she wrapped her arms around Ed's knees. Her mother held both his hands. "Medicine Man, I'm sorry we didn't thank you before. We're so grateful for your saving our daughter." Ed smiled. He lacked words to express himself. "There's no lasting injury to her?" asked Ellen. "No, it's miraculous that she hardly had a scratch on her." "I'm glad. She was fortunate to meet one of the few friendly bears out there. Mohi was from the Duwamish tribe before he died and returned as a bear." "The story is truly amazing," said her father. "You've heard the story?" asked Ed. "It's all anyone has talked about. This is the stuff of legends." "Do you hear that, Ed? Your story has become a legend," asked Ellen. Ed groaned. "Be sure to remember Mohi, Absaroki, and Wambly. Officer Urey and I just went and collected her," said Ed. "We'll thank everyone if we get the chance," said the father. "Excuse me, did you say Wambly? That name belonged to one of my ancestors," said an old woman. "So Wambly was once a member of the Snoqualmie tribe?" asked Ellen. The old woman looked at Ellen. "Yes, I think he was. My, you look pretty." A few minutes later, Ed and Ellen bumped into two more familiar faces. One he hadn't expected, Officer Urey and Kathleen Clark. "Hello, Ed," said Officer Urey with a grin. "Hello, Officer Urey. And Mrs. Clark. How nice to see you again." "Mr. Tanner, I called Officer Urey hoping to get your number to call and thank you. He invited me this evening so we could meet in person, she said. So it worked out well? Yes, I'm no longer seeing that charlatan. Good to hear. Officer Ure has shared more about you during our journey here. So you're a medicine man and you talk with spirits? Mrs. Clark asked. Ed noticed an eager look about her. Uh-oh, I'm not a psychic. I just helped you discover the last one was a fake. I don't plan to replace him. Really? But you could, if you wanted to. I understand you talked with animal spirits to rescue a young girl. I didn't choose this. Sometimes a little girl is in trouble and will die if I don't help her. I had no choice. And now an entire tribe looks upon you with respect and awe. You didn't want that? No, I work as a software engineer and I desire a quiet life. Okay, one question. What is my PIN number? Mrs. Clark asked, her eyes narrowed. Hypothetically, if I knew it, what would that prove? That you talked with my late husband. If I talked with him, he'd want me to get you away from that fake psychic. Yes, he would. He wouldn't want me to replace him. You need to move on. She considered that for a moment. Mrs. Clark, you understand the distinction between needs and wants. I gave you what you needed. Please be satisfied and move on with your life. I suspect it's what he'd want. Mrs. Clark looked sad, or perhaps she was trying puppy dog eyes to coax something out from him. He didn't budge. He had Ellen beside him, and she was his rock. Ed noticed that Officer Ure had wandered off. He couldn't recall when that happened. Finally, Mrs. Clark shrugged. It's just I miss him so much. I can understand that. I'd suggest that such sentiments handicap you, and also they trap his spirit from moving on. Please be happy and let go. It's best for both of you. Mrs. Clark nodded and wandered off. Ed turned to Ellen. Ellen, please promise me if I die before you find joy and let me go. Of course, dear. Ed looked at Ellen. She had an innocent smile, and he couldn't tell if she was playing with him. Later they had a formal reading of the story. It mentioned Absaroki the crow, Wombly the eagle, and Mohi the bear. The story also mentioned Officer Ure and his friend from the Duwamish tribe, the White Medicine Man. It was an amazing story of rescue. Ed was worried about the little girl. That story would follow her for a lifetime. Hopefully she'd do something good with her life. Then it hit him. Ellen, I've got an idea, he said. Huh? That little girl is a future scholarship recipient. Agreed, said Ellen. I like it. Let me talk with her parents. Ellen abandoned Ed for the first time that evening. He missed her holding his hand or clutching his arm. Suddenly, another white woman approached Ed. Hello, I'm Melissa Hayes. I'm with the Seattle Times. I heard the story about your miraculous rescue of the young girl, she said. And you attended the gathering to meet me? Asked Ed. Yes, the story of a white medicine man is curious enough. Your rescue of a little girl is amazing. I was part of a volunteer rescue team. I came out and did my part. There was no miracle involved. Come now, you're being modest. Hey, didn't I see you a while back in Seattle? You were at King Street Station and a van of thugs kidnapped you? Well, if that had happened, I'd probably be dead then. No, I never forget a face. Comes with my profession. If you say so. My face is quite ordinary and easy to mistake for another. Well, I'm glad you're alive now, or that little girl would be dead. I'm also glad to be alive. All life is precious. That's not much of an answer. It's all you're getting. I have other friends to see. Ed walked away from the reporter as promptly as his legs could take him. Fortunately, he lost her in the crowd. Melissa groaned. Her instinct screamed at her he was a story, and she wanted to tell it. Melissa checked her device that she always carried to record conversations. People might say something she could use. Unfortunately, the battery was dead. She silently cursed, knowing she had nothing on him. Ed was lucky to find Ellen amongst a crowd of people. "Hey, Ellen, did you find her parents?" he asked. "Yes, I gave them a card and explained the scholarship program. They were ecstatic." "Good. I just got accosted by a reporter. I think I shook her off." "Oh, do you need me to send some goons to sort her out? Or I could buy out her paper." "Oh no, it's nothing. If it ever gets to be something, we can discuss it then. And definitely, no goons." "Of course, dear." Soon the gathering was ending. Ed and Ellen returned to the parking lot. Ellen said a few words to her security detail. Then they got into his car and drove home. "Hey Ed, since it's late, stay overnight. I have your room ready for you. You can drive to work tomorrow morning." "Of course, dear." Well, that's the end of chapter 27. And next episode we have chapter 28. Disneytech is shut down. Ed talks to the ghost of the owner. Ed moves in with Ellen, and they visit a revolving restaurant. See you then.